The weight of Liam's presence pressed down on Julian, who was sprawled on the cold marble floor of the East Wing's great study. A thin line of blood trickled from the corner of his mouth, but his eyes were as dark and unreadable as polished obsidian. Liam let out a short, dismissive laugh. He nudged Julian's pale face with the toe of his handmade Italian leather shoe, remarking with cruel amusement that for a nobody, he certainly had fine bone structure, the rightful heir to the family fortune, and yet he was forced to crawl at the feet of an impostor, serving as a glorified valet. Later, as Julian was being forced to organize a stack of confidential briefs on the massive mahogany desk, the polished wood reflected his lowered gaze. The long sweep of his lashes cast faint, gray shadows on his cheeks. Liam tapped a manicured finger on the desk, a silent command for him to hurry. As Julian bent to retrieve a fallen document, the wide sleeve of his simple uniform shirt brushed the floor, stirring a clean, subtle scent of sandalwood cologne that gave Liam a moment of strange disorientation. Cole, the head of security, stood sentinel by the grand oak doors, his arms crossed over his broad chest. His voice, when he spoke, held a barely concealed edge of animosity, suggesting that the servant was clumsy and should be dismissed, perhaps sent to manage one of the family's more remote, undesirable properties. Liam paid him no mind, his attention fixed on Julian. At that exact moment, Julian looked up. His eyes were startlingly black, perfectly mirroring Liam's own arrogant posture. Cole scoffed, pointing out that the servant was staring again. Even knowing that this was the man who would one day reclaim everything, Liam couldn't suppress a surge of irritation. He picked up his half-empty mug and hurled it. The cold coffee drenched the front of Julian's shirt, the dark liquid and stray grounds stark against the white fabric, only serving to emphasize the pallor of his skin. An odd tightness seized Liam's throat. He declared that since Julian clearly lacked manners, he would keep him by his side to learn them properly. He stepped over the shattered ceramic, flicking a coffee ground from the other man's collar with a proprietary air. Cole's brow furrowed in disapproval, questioning the wisdom of keeping such a troublesome person close. Liam leaned down, studying Julian's sharp, handsome profile, his breath ghosting over the other man's temple. A disinherited whelp with good bones, he thought, was perfect for the menial task of sorting his paperwork. He toyed with the heavy signet ring on his finger, a symbol of the power he had usurped. He mused that a true dragon was best kept grounded in shallow waters. He told Julian that serving him personally was a far better fate than the hardships he would face otherwise, reminding him who had intervened to prevent him from being cast out of the family entirely. After a long, heavy silence, Julian finally bowed his head, his voice a low murmur of assent. Cole's voice was a low growl from beside the desk, informing Liam that the servant was watching him sign documents again. His displeasure was obvious as he asked if he should go and issue a. Liam told him it wasn't necessary. Julian stood nearby, holding a leather-bound folio, but his gaze was fixed on Liam, a silent, unnerving focus that made the hairs on Liam's arms stand up. Even when caught, he didn't look away. Instead, the corner of his mouth tilted in a barely perceptible smirk that sent a jolt through Liam's system. In the narrative he'd constructed for himself, he would have flown into a rage at such insolence, ordering the man to be disciplined. But now, knowing the truth of their situation, he merely gave Julian a cool glance and let it be. The pile of corporate reports and legal briefings seemed endless, and Liam felt his energy draining away. He looked up to see Julian, in a rare moment of idleness, reading a paperback novel. A wave of irrational anger washed over him. He slammed a file shut and called Julian's name sharply. Julian approached without a word. Liam pushed his nearly empty whiskey glass across the desk, ordering a refill. As he watched Julian, he noted that for someone so well-read, he could be more useful. He declared that from now on, Julian would assist him directly with the briefings. A subtle tension entered Julian's frame. He demurred, stating quietly that he wouldn't dare. The few junior aides present in the room immediately looked down, sensing a shift in the atmosphere. Liam gave a cold smile, asking if there was anything in this house that Julian wouldn't dare to do. Julian kept his head bowed, his voice steady as he insisted that signing off on corporate policy was a matter of grave importance, not something a person in his position could interfere with. His voice was a clear, low baritone that was surprisingly pleasant to the ear. Liam snapped that he would do as he was told, threatening to have him sent to a disciplinary boot camp the family used for wayward employees. After another tense silence, Julian spoke again. He stated that the shipping logistics proposal Liam had revised the day before still contained 4 significant vulnerabilities. If permitted, he was prepared to detail each one. His words struck a nerve. That proposal had been rejected by Liam's father 3 times, a fact that had become a source of quiet humiliation among the executive board. Now even this cast-off knew of his failure. Liam shot to his feet, enraged, and hurled the heavy glass paperweight at him. But Julian didn't move, allowing the object to thud against his chest. It was Liam who, having risen too quickly, felt a wave of dizziness and pitched forward. Cole lunged to help, but Julian was faster. A slender but strong arm shot out, catching Liam securely around the waist. The warmth of his body seeped through Liam's suit jacket, startlingly hot. Liam shoved him away, his voice sharp with fury. He demanded to know who gave the dog permission to touch him. Julian slowly sank to one knee, his dark eyes looking up from the floor as he acknowledged his transgression. The logistics proposal was rewritten according to Julian's guidance. Liam had to admit his insights were far better than his own. The man was, after all, the true heir, possessed of a natural and infuriating brilliance. Still, there were aspects of Julian's strategy that Liam couldn't grasp. The more he thought about it, the more frustrated he became. He pulled out the proposal again, determined to devise a superior plan regarding the river channels. Just as his pen touched the paper, he heard a faint sound from the doorway. He barked out a challenge, asking who was there. The heavy door swung open silently, and Julian appeared, carrying a tray with a steaming bowl of broth. The sight of him was an immediate irritant. Liam waved a hand, knocking the tray and sending the bowl crashing to the floor as he ordered Julian to get out. But Julian didn't retreat. He knelt, picking up the large shards of ceramic before using his own sleeve to wipe a splash of broth from the toe of Liam's shoe. The unexpected touch sent a shiver through Liam's entire body. Julian's voice was a low murmur, telling him that the key to the shipping problem wasn't the river, but the dockworkers' union. To be lectured by his own subordinate should have been infuriating. But Liam found himself distracted by the curve of Julian's lips. His own retort came out softer than intended as he questioned what right Julian had to meddle. He turned his head away, hoping Julian wouldn't see the heat rising in his cheeks. Julian lowered his eyes, murmuring that he wouldn't dare presume, but offered to explain further if Liam was interested. The thought of being seen as ignorant by this man was galling, but if Julian was willing to teach him, Liam was willing to exploit the opportunity. He agreed, but threatened that if any part of the explanation was wrong, he would personally see to his punishment. Julian retrieved a pen and a legal pad and stood beside the desk. From this angle, Liam had a perfect view of his face, softened by the warm glow of the desk lamp. His long, elegant fingers moved with fluid grace as he sketched a map of the port. As he leaned in to point out a critical detail, his breath brushed against Liam's ear. He explained that the union, which appeared disorganized, actually controlled 3 critical choke points. His finger tapped the diagram, showing that winning over the union boss would be more effective than trying to discipline 10 shipping managers. Liam stared at his focus profile and suddenly asked where he had learned such tactics. He suspected such a cunning, almost seductive approach to power must have been picked up from some unsavory source. Julian's hand paused for a fraction of a second, a small blot of ink spreading on the page. He replied smoothly that he had overheard the family's old strategists discussing it once, while he was serving in the library. Liam took the pen from his hand, using the tip to tilt Julian's face up towards him. He declared that from now on, Julian would listen from behind a screen during his conference calls. Him to be careful what he said by tapping the pen against his lips. Julian simply held his gaze, a turbulent current moving in the depths of his dark eyes that Liam couldn't, and didn't want to, understand. For now, he was no threat. Julian simply affirmed the order. Cole could no longer contain his agitation after Julian helped correct a complex tax proposal for the 3rd time. He questioned whether Liam should really be allowing that servant to involve himself in corporate governance. His eyes, fixed on Julian, were dangerously cold. He argued that if Julian dared to influence tax policy today, he would try to influence security protocols tomorrow. Cole's hand nervously rubbed the grip of the holstered firearm at his side, his glare like a physical blow against Julian, who was silently refilling a water glass. Julian was no longer just a servant. He was Liam's chief aide. Liam, finding him handsome, had arranged for him to be dressed in tailored dark suits. The fine clothes accentuated his lean waist and tall frame, making him an elegant, if unsettling, presence in the study. Liam, turning the heavy ring on his finger, asked Cole what he was so worried about. Julian was just a harmless dog that didn't bite. But Cole's brow remained tightly knitted, insisting that the man's background was a mystery and he could be a spy from a rival corporation. Liam slammed his glass down, his voice dropping to a low hiss as he asked when Cole had earned the right to question his decisions. Cole fell silent. Liam waved him away. The moment the door clicked shut, Liam felt a pang of regret. He had been too harsh. He and Cole had known each other for years. Cole had been his only loyal ally after the family upheaval. And as head of security, he was indispensable. That evening, Liam dismissed his staff and went to Cole's quarters alone. He didn't hear the usual sounds of Cole training in his private gym. As he drew closer to the door, he heard a low, restrained sound from within, a ragged gasp mixed with the rustle of fabric. Frowning, Liam pushed open the unlocked door while calling Cole's name. His words died in his throat. The room was unlit, but the fading twilight filtering through the window outlined a tense figure by the bed. Cole was kneeling on one knee, his back to the door. He wore only a thin t-shirt and sweats, and his broad, muscular back was trembling slightly. He whipped his head around, his face flushed and startled. He quickly tried to hide something he was clutching in his hand, but Liam caught a glimpse of a glossy corner of photo paper. It was a picture of himself, clipped from a magazine. Liam froze for a second, then a slow smile spread across his face. He thought the man was doing something illicit, and in a way he was. Cole was in his prime, a virile man with no partner. It was only natural. Suppressing a strange and unfamiliar flicker of discomfort, Liam adopted a stern expression and coughed. He strolled into the room, teasing Cole for hiding away to pine during his duty shift. Cole's body went rigid. His lips were pressed into a thin line, and his eyes darted away, unable to meet Liam's gaze, though the tips of his ears were burning red. The sight of the stoic security chief so flustered was highly amusing. Liam tapped Cole's firm shoulder with a rolled-up report. He asked, in a playfully mocking tone, which of the household staff had captured his captain's heart. He offered to arrange a match, saying it was better than Cole being reduced to this. Before he could finish, Cole's head snapped up. His normally calm, sharp eyes were churning with a violent emotion Liam couldn't decipher. He stared at Liam, his voice raspy as he asked if Liam truly didn't know his heart's desire. The abrupt question caught Liam off guard, but then he thought he understood. Cole was embarrassed, or perhaps worried about overstepping with whichever woman it was. Liam waved his hand dismissively, telling him there was no shame in it and promising to speak to the girl on his behalf. Cole cut him off, his voice suddenly loud and strained. Liam stared at him, bewildered. Cole seemed to deflate, his head dropping. He just waved a hand and told Liam to go back, his voice muffled and exhausted. Liam was taken aback by the unprecedented dismissal, but concluded the man was simply overcome with shame. He shook his head, muttering that only Cole would dare to order him around, and left without any real anger. Once outside, the cool evening breeze felt strange against his warm face. He shook his head, trying to dispel the odd tension of the encounter, and made a mental note to find out which of the staff had turned his stoic guard captain into such a mess. Back in the study, the mountain of paperwork seemed to mock him. A deep sense of weariness and frustration washed over him. The staff had long since retired for the night, but he was still there, forcing his exhausted mind to focus on tedious corporate affairs. He wondered what was so great about being the heir. He threw his pen down on the desk and rubbed his aching temples. He worked longer hours than anyone, slept less, and for what? The position wasn't even truly his. The thought of giving it all back sent a jolt of pure terror through him. It was treason, a corporate death sentence. But an overwhelming sense of injustice gnawed at him. On a strange impulse, he stood up and walked towards Julian's quarters. As Liam's chief aide, he was housed in a small, private suite in the East Wing. His room was dark. He was likely already asleep. Liam didn't bother to knock, pushing the door open and walking to the bed. He roughly shook the lump under the covers, calling Julian's name. The figure stirred, emitting a low, sleepy groan before slowly turning over. Strands of dark hair were splayed across the pillow. Liam found himself momentarily captivated by the man's striking features in the dim light. Before he could speak again, Julian's hand shot out, grabbing his wrist and yanking him forward. With a startled cry, Liam lost his balance and tumbled onto the bed. Before he could even process what had happened, a strong arm wrapped around his waist, pulling him tight against a firm chest clad only in a thin sleep shirt. The scent of soap and warm skin enveloped him. He began to struggle, his face burning with a mixture of shock and fury, demanding to know what Julian was doing. But Julian's strength was astounding. His arm was an iron band. Liam was both humiliated and enraged, pushing and kicking to no avail. He opened his mouth to shout for help, then bit his lip, realizing the catastrophic implications if he were found here, in the middle of the night, tangled in the bed of his male subordinate. As the struggle continued, his energy waned. Held in that unyielding embrace, the frantic anxiety that had plagued him all night began to recede. The hold wasn't soft, but it was incredibly warm and steady. The powerful, rhythmic beat of Julian's heart against his ear was a strange comfort. The exhaustion he had been fighting all night finally won, and his eyelids grew heavy. The will to resist was swallowed by a deep, overwhelming need for sleep. There, in the arms of the subordinate who had so brazenly defied him, he slept. When he opened his eyes again, the sky was beginning to lighten. He was momentarily disoriented, then realized with a jolt of horror that he was still curled up in Julian's arms. He scrambled out of the bed, tumbling to the floor with a clumsy thud, his heart hammering against his ribs. The noise woke Julian, who slowly sat up, his sleep shirt hanging open, his eyes clouded with lingering sleep. He murmured Liam's name, his voice thick and raspy, and asked what he was doing there. Liam was about to unleash a tirade about his insolence when his gaze fell and locked onto the front of Julian's sleep pants. His eyes widened in disbelief. He pointed, his finger trembling, his shocked gaze flickering between Julian's now awkward expression and the undeniable evidence before him. He stammered, his tongue feeling thick in his mouth. He thought the disinherited were neutered. Socially, financially, completely. He couldn't form the question. Julian said nothing, his eyes avoiding Liam's as he tried futilely to shift his position. In the bizarre, tense silence, Julian's throat worked. Then, he reached out again, pulling Liam back towards him. Liam stumbled, nearly colliding with his bare, warm chest. A hot, husky whisper slid into his ear, asking if he'd like to touch it and see for himself. A firestorm of heat consumed Liam from head to toe. He shoved Julian with all his might, shouting an incoherent curse. Forgetting all decorum, he fled the room, leaving Julian behind, his breathing still ragged. He stumbled back to his own suite and slid down the cool wood of the door, his hand pressed to his burning face. A corresponding reaction stirred in his own body. He, the heir apparent, for a servant? Everything had just spun completely out of control. When Cole arrived for the morning security briefing, Liam was staring blankly at a financial report. Seeing the dark mood still clinging to his captain, Liam forced a smile and beckoned him over. He declared that surely, today was the day Cole would tell him which of the staff had so bewitched him. He drew out his words, giving Cole a knowing look, promising a handsome bonus as a wedding gift. But Cole's expression only darkened. He told Liam to stop joking at his expense. Liam, convinced he had hit the nail on the head and that Cole was just shy, found it even more amusing. He stood and walked around the desk, continuing to press him, guessing names of women from the kitchen staff and the administrative pool. As he was about to suggest one of his own personal assistants, Cole's hand shot out and clamped around his wrist. Liam looked up, startled, into eyes that burned with a raw, restrained heat. Cole's voice was a ragged whisper, begging him to stop. Liam frowned, trying to pull his hand away, but Cole's grip was like steel. As he struggled, his other hand came up to pry Cole's fingers loose. But in a sudden, shocking move, Cole wrapped his other arm around Liam's waist and hauled him into a tight embrace. Liam froze, completely stunned. He hissed Cole's name, demanding to be released, his voice trembling with rage. Cole buried his face in the crook of Liam's neck, his breath hot and ragged against his skin. His muffled voice was thick with emotion as he confessed that he didn't care about any of the women. From the beginning, it had only ever been. The rest of the sentence was lost, because Liam's gaze met a pair of black, bottomless eyes across the room. He flinched as if struck, tearing himself from Cole's grasp. Julian was standing there, holding a silver tray with a single cup on it. Those dark, placid eyes were fixed on them. An inexplicable wave of guilt and panic washed over Liam, the absurd feeling of a cheating husband caught by his wife. He was the one in charge, yet he was afraid of a servant. A servant who, just that morning, he pushed the thought away. Ignoring Julian completely, he turned back to the equally pale Cole and demanded he repeat what he had just said. Cole's gaze flickered from Liam to Julian and back again before his lips pressed into a hard line. He changed the subject abruptly, his tone stiff, commenting that it appeared Liam had not yet bathed or changed that morning. The words hit their mark. Liam froze, instinctively looking down at his rumpled clothes. He had fled Julian's room in such a panic that the morning routine had completely escaped his mind. He worried what Cole might have guessed. Surely no one had seen him leaving Julian's suite. The heat rushed back to his face, hotter and more intense than when Cole had held him. It was the shame of being seen through. He stammered that he had been busy with work and had forgotten. The excuse was flimsy and he knew it. From the corner of his eye, he saw Julian, still standing silently by the door, a faint, knowing smile playing on his lips. His father began to take more and more notice of Julian, praising his strategic mind and telling Liam he should learn from him. Fear, cold and sharp, seized Liam. What if Julian gained enough favor to have the old family records re-examined? What if they discovered the carefully hidden truth about his parentage, about the unique birthmark on Julian's hip that proved his lineage? In a panic, Liam devised a cruel plan. He would surgically remove the mark himself. It had to be done in secret by his own hand. One moonless night, he acquired a drug and a scalpel and went to Julian's room. The faint light outlined the still figure on the bed. With trembling hands, he reached for the waistband of Julian's sleep pants. Just as his fingers brushed the fabric and he saw the faint reddish mark on the skin beneath, his wrist was seized in an iron grip. Julian's eyes were wide open, and they burned with an unnatural heat. His voice was a low, hoarse rasp as he asked what Liam intended to do to him. Liam's blood ran cold. Julian wasn't unconscious. The drug, he remembered his vague, evasive conversation with Cole, who had looked at him with a strange, hopeful excitement before procuring the vial. He hadn't given him a sedative. He'd given him an aphrodisiac. Damn Cole. But it was too late. Julian's body was radiating heat, his breathing heavy and fast against Liam's neck. He tried to pull away, but Julian was too strong. The scalpel was easily taken from his grasp and tossed aside. Julian's hot lips were against his ear, his voice a dangerous whisper as he said that since Liam had delivered such a gift in person, he could hardly refuse it. Liam's frantic denials and explanations were swallowed by a bruising kiss. The night descended into a blur of pain, force, and unwilling submission. His whimpers silenced, his body twisted into positions that made his joints ache. When the first gray light of dawn touched the sky, the assault finally ceased. But an arm remained possessively wrapped around his waist. Carefully, Liam pried the arm away, stifling a cry of pain as he moved. He threw on his clothes and fled, only to run straight into the one person he least wanted to see, Cole. He was dressed in his dark uniform, but it was rumpled, as if he had been waiting outside all night, which meant he had heard. Cole's voice was shaking as he realized the drug he'd provided was for this. He choked on the words. Liam tried to explain, but his voice came out as a broken croak, and a sharp pain shot through his bruised lips. The sound confirmed Cole's worst fears. Despair in his eyes was replaced by a murderous rage. He swore he would kill him. Panicked, Liam threw himself at Cole, grabbing his arm and begging him not to go, pleading that he was in pain and just wanted to go back to his own room. The last part seemed to reach him. Cole's wild gaze focused on Liam's pale, tear-streaked face. He took a deep, shuddering breath, then swept Liam up into his arms and carried him away. After that, Julian tried several times to speak with Liam, but Cole intercepted him every time. Liam didn't want to see him either, not out of anger, but out of a mortifying confusion. He couldn't forget the events of that night. He worried he might actually have deviant desires. The annual corporate hunting retreat arrived, and Liam deliberately excluded Julian from the guest list. He was shocked, then, to see him standing beside his father's helicopter. On the ride to the remote lodge, Julian tried to approach him several times, but was always blocked by Cole's imposing figure. Liam noticed Julian looked unwell, his face pale, one hand gripping his opposite sleeve as if to hide something. The fleeting curiosity was quickly suppressed. What happened to Julian was not his concern. At the hunting grounds, Liam lost himself in the thrill of the chase. He didn't notice that Cole, who was usually shadowing him, had slipped away. It wasn't until dusk, as he returned to the main lodge, that he sensed something was terribly wrong. The staff hurried past with their heads down, their faces etched with fear. A crowd of executives and paramedics was gathered outside his father's private cabin. A terrible premonition seized him. He grabbed a junior executive, demanding to know what happened. The man fell to his knees, stammering that Julian had been attacked, that he was critically injured. Liam's mind went blank. He asked who did it. The man whispered it was Cole. He had been caught in the act by Liam's uncle. In the struggle, Julian's shirt had been torn open, revealing the birthmark on his hip. It was like a lightning strike. Cole had tried to kill Julian, and in the process had exposed the one secret that could destroy Liam. He staggered towards the cabin but was stopped by security. Inside, he could hear the urgent, low voices of the medical team. Not far away, Cole was on his knees, his hands bound, flanked by 2 guards. He looked up at Liam, his expression not of fear, but of grim resignation. The family's lawyers arrived quickly. Cole was not just a guard. He was the son of a powerful family friend, and couldn't be summarily dealt with. The situation was at a stalemate. Liam stood frozen as whispers swirled around him. People were saying Julian was covered in wounds, that he had always been mistreated and abused by Liam. Liam wanted to scream that it wasn't true, that it was Julian who had. He remembered Julian's pale face on the ride up, the way he clutched his arm. He thought of Cole's murderous rage. Had Cole been torturing Julian in private since that night? And he had known nothing? His father summoned him. He watched in a daze as his own shirt was cut open, revealing the expertly forged birthmark on his hip. But his uncle and the family doctor easily identified it as a fake, created with dyes and needles. It was over. The insults from the guards echoed down the hallway of the security facility. They called him a fraud, a pampered fake, and told him to enjoy the rats. They cut his meals and laughed at his tears. He had never known such hardship. He curled into a ball in the corner of the cold cell, shivering with fear and helpless rage. He thought of Cole, wondering where he was, if he could help him. But he knew Cole was in as much trouble as he was. Hope withered with each passing day. Then, one night, he was startled awake by the sound of steady, confident footsteps approaching his cell. The steps stopped. He looked up through a blur of tears to see a figure bathed in the hallway light. It was Julian, dressed in an impeccably tailored suit, the very picture of power and authority. He had been reinstated. He was here to deliver his sentence. Liam scrambled backwards, pressing himself against the cold concrete wall. Julian gestured, and the guards vanished. The lock on his cell clicked open. He stepped inside. Liam shut his eyes, bracing for the blow. Instead, a cool hand gently brushed the tears from his cheeks. The touch was hesitant, almost clumsy, but held an unexpected tenderness. He opened his eyes, staring up in shock. Julian's voice was low and slightly hoarse when he spoke, telling him not to cry, that it hurt him to see it. Liam stared, seeing not malice, but genuine pain and concern in his eyes. The dam broke. He began to sob uncontrollably, babbling about the rats and the guards and how scared he was. Julian gently gathered him into his arms, letting him weep. He carried him from the cell, Julian's expensive suit soaking up all the filth and misery of Liam's ruin. He was allowed to return to the East Wing, his official title now the Patriarch's Ward, a face-saving fiction. But everything had changed. Julian was now the master. He insisted Liam remain with him in the study while he worked, and his gaze was no longer secret, but open and intense. His touches became more frequent, fingers brushing over Liam's as he accepted a cup, his body standing impossibly close when being fitted for new clothes, his breath a warm whisper against Liam's ear. He treated Liam with a disconcerting reverence, a reverence laced with an intimacy that made Liam's heart race. He became convinced that the incident with the aphrodisiac had permanently altered Julian's desires, and a heavy sense of guilt settled over him. He was living on Julian's charity, but he couldn't sell himself in exchange. One day, as Julian reviewed a portfolio, Liam finally worked up the courage to speak. He haltingly asked if Julian might grant him some funds to purchase a small apartment of his own. The pen in Julian's hand stilled. He looked up, his expression unreadable. He asked if the East Wing was no longer to his liking. Liam kept his eyes down, but forced himself to explain that he felt he was imposing and wished to live independently. Julian was silent for a moment before quietly dismissing the servants from the room. When they were alone, he rose and walked over to Liam, trapping him between his body and the heavy desk. He lifted Liam's chin, forcing him to meet his gaze. He asked him to explain what he really meant, if he had done something to displease him, to make him want to run away. His thumb stroked gently along Liam's jaw. Liam stammered a denial, his heart pounding. The man's thumb moved to trace the outline of his lips, his voice dropping to a low, husky timbre. He said Liam's bone structure was exquisite, that the sight of him was a pleasure, never an imposition. The pieces finally clicked into place. He really had turned him. The shock must have been plain on his face, because Julian's eyes darkened. "Liam," he said softly, "did you truly not know that I desired you?" He explained that his desire had always been there, but as a powerless servant, he was unworthy. Now, he said, their positions were reversed, and he had no intention of ever letting him go.